Welcome to the podcast. Today my guest is Mario Hudelist. He is one of the very few people in Austria who can make a living from Jujitsu. He's a Jujitsu black belt. He is the head coach at Citythong BJJ in Vienna, and he's also my coach. And today he's on the podcast to answer some questions about Jujitsu, about coaching.
Questions.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
To start at the beginning, did you play any sports before you got into Jiu-Jitsu, and how did you discover Jiu-Jitsu?
So basically, my father was always into sports. So he was running marathons and he was going to skiing and everything. And so he introduced me to sports very soon, and I tried almost every sport. I played soccer, I played ice hockey, but I realized I was absolutely not good in any team sports for some reasons. My coordination with the ball was super off, so I don't know, I never felt like very comfortable. I think the longest thing I did was playing ice hockey. It ended up me being on the field knowing no one, like I didn't know who was in my team, who was the other team. Basically, I was standing there. It was actually the last match, I think my last training in ice hockey, and I was there. I had the puck, and all the people would be on the other side, and I was close to the one goal, and so I saw the puck, and I was like, oh man, that's my chance. I just took the puck and I tried to shoot it in. The guy blocked it, and he said, man, you're an idiot, I'm your player. So I think that was the point where my father realized that I should not do ice hockey anymore.
What age?
I don't remember, maybe 6, 7. So I was, yeah. And the next thing what really got me excited was Shaolin Kung-Fu. So I met this one guy who taught this. He never really had a school. So basically the only thing we did was 3 or 4 times a week running up the hill and training there. Like, it doesn't matter if it rains, if it's snowing. And it was a very cool time. I really enjoyed it. It was very hard training. I looked forward to having something where I can use all my energy in. And I think after 3 or 4 years, I stopped training. It was because the trainer, he didn't have time sometimes, and then my motivation started to go off a little bit. It was also a time where I was teenager, so I stopped a little bit of doing sports, and then I trained, and then I went to clubs and everything. It was only 1 year in my life, I think, where I
can't imagine
you can't imagine me doing parties. Yeah, man, I did. I think it was 1 year or 2 years. I did party. You may not believe it. But I realized soon that for some reason I missed something. And I looked up some sports, and I saw a school. At that time it was called Fight Club, and I went there. They offered Thai boxing. I already knew a little bit of MMA, so I wanted to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. So the first thing I wanted to do actually was MMA and not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I started Thai boxing, and then I asked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he said, yeah, they already started, but I can sign up next month. So it was in 2010, in March, when I started doing Thai boxing, and in April 2010 I started with Jiu-Jitsu, and it was a small group. So my first trainer was Martin Gugi, and he was a blue belt, I think, when I started, and we had a small group, but I really enjoyed the training. So at that time I was still doing Thai boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think 3 times a week, because they couldn't offer more, so that was the maximum I did. But first 1.5 hour Thai boxing, then 1.5 hour Jiu-Jitsu. And during that time, I realized that I enjoyed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu more and more and more. And I think what really made me love this sport too was Martin, because his way of enjoying the sport, his way of teaching it really made a huge impact on even how I act today nowadays, or how I teach nowadays. I never had straight from the beginning a coach who would not care. So I was in a lucky situation, I would say, compared to some other people who I talked to. They would say, oh, the coach, they didn't care, or just they don't show any techniques, or it's not like very, how to say, there's no structure, there's no curriculum and anything. So Martin tried to, even though he was a blue belt, bring everything together. We went to training camps. So the first black belt I met was Michael Hockenjos in Germany. So we always went to him, having summer camps or something like that, and I really loved that camps. I really loved it. We were just, 15 people. Most of us were from Austria, and we had this super nice place somewhere in Offenburg in Germany. Like, it was called Altenheim or something. Like there are literally only two sports there: horse riding and grappling. So
Okay.
it was a good time. Then I trained for 1 year. After this 1 year, Martin moved to California for 1 year because he met at that time Renato Mediaccio, which is my professor too. So he gave me the black belt, and Martin too. And he moved from Sao Paulo to California, opening up a gym. And he asked Martin to help him out. So Martin took the chance.
And Martin was a purple belt.
At that time he was purple belt, yeah. He got his purple belt from Michael Hockenjos. And he went to California as a purple belt and started to help Renato building the school. And it's called Sampa Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Glendora. And so the thing was, we were basically left, right? And I was the only one who could take over the classes. Because soon after I started, I realized, okay, I still want to do school, so I'm not starting to work and school, so I just would do school and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it was at that moment what I really wanted to do. And so I had time. And the owner of the club, which changed from Fight Club to Fight Skills, I think it's now, his name is Dominic, he offered me Martin's place, basically, to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was blue belt, so I got, after 1 year, the blue belt from Michael Hockenjos, and I did the classes, and in the beginning it was horrible. Like I had literally no idea how I would do it, but thanks to Martin, I already had a good idea. I had like the mindset of how I set up classes, what I have to do to basically learn as much as possible to provide a good training, even though I didn't know much. So that was the hardest part. And that basically was what got me into Jiu-Jitsu.
And at that point, I think Martin was the first Austrian black belt?
Not at that time. So he is the first Austrian who got a black belt. It was a little bit later. So after 1 year, when I taught 1 year just on my own, Martin came back from California. He was a brown belt at that time. And we decided to open up our own club. So it's called Flowing Arts Academy. It still exists in Klagenfurt. So Martin is still the head of the Flowing Arts Academy from my hometown. And he got, I think, his black belt a couple of years after we opened up the gym.
And when you were alone in Austria during the classes, how did you manage to get better yourself and then kind of share the knowledge? Like, because it's easier if you don't know much, it's hard to teach. Even if you try, it's hard to teach someone else.
Yeah, it is. So I think I was at least so lucky that in the 1 year I did every class. So I came to every class and I tried to remember everything. And but what I did was basically, I bought this book. It's called Jujitsu University from Saulo Ribeiro. It's a very nice book. So for me, it introduced me to so many concepts that no one could teach me because I didn't have anyone, you know what I'm saying? And in this book, it's very clear, it's very detailed. It tells you how to survive and how to escape, how to start then attacking. And so basically, when I was in school, I was studying the book, writing down the plan for the night's training. Don't get me wrong, I did many mistakes, But it was either I do the classes or no one will do it, because we didn't have anyone else in my hometown who would teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We didn't have anyone, so I had to do the best, make the best out of it, and the book really helped me. What also helped me was Drill to Win from Andre Galvao. So basically I read lots of books. I also watched YouTube, but at that time the YouTube videos were kind of, the quality was super bad and there were not many instructionals. So it got better over the time. More and more footage on YouTube, better quality, more explanation. I think there was, I don't remember what it is. I think it was Jujitsu Weekly or something. It was a YouTube channel who always invited black belts to teach their favorite move.
One technique, yes.
Yeah. And I watched that like every week, basically.
Yeah, it's funny. Like nowadays, it's like the opposite. Like if you search one technique, you get
so many answers.
And someone very close to Andre Galvao, for example, are the Mendes brothers, and I know you have been to California multiple times. How did the Mendes bros and training in California influence your jiu-jitsu?
A lot. It already did before I went there, because I was watching Rafael Mendes from the beginning. So I watched YouTube videos from him being like, I wasn't even sure if it's him or not, because the videos were so bad, you know what I'm saying? But I just saw some guys doing cool stuff and they were turning upside down, and so I realized, oh man, that's cool, and I like this guy. And then I kept watching them, both brothers, and I kind of followed them all along until they opened up their academy in California. So it was then my second visit in California was at the Mendes Brothers Academy. My first visit was Professor Renato in California. During the time when Martin was there, I visited Martin and Renato. And
you were a blue belt?
At that time I was blue belt. Yeah, and when I went the next time to California, I think it was 2014, but I'm not 100% sure, I was purple belt. And I went to the Art of Jiu-Jitsu Academy. It was kind of my dream to train with them, because they already had so much influence on how I set up my drills and everything, even though I have never really learned from them in person, and I only know Andres' book and what I saw on footage. And when I went there, they kind of got me what I expected. Like, I really enjoyed it there. We did some very cool drills that really fit the way I like to fight. So since I watched them from the beginning, they had also a huge influence on the way I like to move. I think it's not just because I'm a fanboy. It's just, I just enjoy their way of moving. Somehow that has some very aesthetic thing to me, and it looks very coordinated, it looks smooth, and I really wanted to have that for myself. So I went there, I trained with them, I had the pleasure to spar with them, and I enjoyed it so much that actually I came back for like almost every year for 4 to 6 weeks. And I haven't been there last year and this year, but eventually next year, we'll see.
How did it feel when you first sparred with one of the Mendes bros? Was it like you realized, okay, that's another level I haven't felt before ever?
For sure, it was very different. I mean, I didn't met so many black belts before. But the level was definitely completely different, especially when I was a purple belt. So, to be honest, after my visit, it was the first time in my life I felt I have a guard. Before that, and especially when I was there, I felt like I don't have a guard, basically. Like, period, that's it. So, the drills they did, and not only them, it's also one of their first black belts, I think. Rick Slomba, he taught some classes on Saturday, and he would have he was a little bit closer to my level, you know what I'm saying, like compared to the Mendes brothers, they're on another level, and he was still a lot better than me, but I felt him a little closer, and just being that little bit closer helped me to understand a little bit more, because sometimes it was hard for me to get all the details. So from year to year, every time when I watch, let's say, a video, I see different things. Even now, maybe in 1 year I see things I don't see now, even though I think I know it now all. You know what I'm saying? Watching a certain video, I discovered everything, and then next year I see, man, this detail is so obvious. Why didn't I see it in the beginning? And it was basically like this. I got so much information, but I could only contain a super small part. And he made I think for me a good job splitting it up a little bit easier for me. So after that, I felt a huge progress, to be honest. And when I sparred with Hafa, it was like the first time I didn't even know like how bad he really made me look in sparring, but probably got a little bit better over the years.
Okay. Do you still have the footage of your first year?
No. They didn't. I'm not sure. I think they didn't film as much back then. Like the last 3 times when I was there, they filmed every sparring. So I have, I don't know, 30 videos, 40 videos of me sparring with him from brown belt to black belt, where like I like those videos because I see a little bit of my improvement with every video, since that's I haven't done many competitions in brown and black belt, none in black belt actually, and that was a way going to California to compare me a little bit with others. Like, I know it's different, it's not a tournament scenario, there are lots of aspects that change everything, you know what I'm saying, stress and being there on the tournament, making weight and everything, having a different mindset, so that's for sure completely different. But just feeling that I make progress, that my techniques get better, I get sharper, I feel like everything I did, like all my drilling paid off. Yeah, I really felt that after I left as a purple belt and when I came back as a brown belt.
The second.
The second time I went to them, I really felt a huge improvement because I took so much information from them and added this to my drilling routine.
I know you're still traveling a lot with Jiu-Jitsu and going to camps and giving seminars. What's the thing you like most about going to these seminars and traveling?
So I usually do seminars before camps. I use it as a whole travel experience basically. And there are 2 types of camps where I'm usually at. The intensive training camps. Renato and Martin made those camps. So I've already been to almost any camp from the start. And the second camps I do are the Globetrotter camps. The leader is like the one who the owner of the Globetrotter camps is Christian Graugart. He's a very nice guy too. He invited me to the camps, and I really enjoy all the camps. There are different camps, but I really enjoy them. At most of the Globetrotter camps, I also have a talk about the drilling sessions. So you usually find me at some of the camps talking about drilling to some people, and I really enjoy it because it's a good way of getting into more people who share similar ideas than you have. You can exchange your knowledge, and I really enjoy meeting many black belts. Usually at both camps there are several black belts, and each of them not just as a athlete but also as a person, their personality. It's very nice to have like different influences and to talk to them. And what I really enjoy are some seminars. Like one seminar was very good at a place in Regensburg, Elements Jujitsu. Those are 2 guys who do that, Max and Alex. Very, very nice guys. After the seminar we stayed in touch, and now I'm helping them out to kind of keep growing, and we exchange a lot, and very, very nice guys. So I can really recommend anyone to go there. I really enjoy to be around with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember it was even last year when I went traveling. It was even before you got in touch with them, I think. I went there just by accident. I was traveling, and I went training there, and it was they're really nice guys. And I remember the gym at that day, it was so hot, and we took photos after a session, and I had to like grab the geese of the two brothers so that I don't pass out on the photo.
Yeah, but I think they move now. They have now a bigger place. Eventually, they will grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. So if you're in Regensburg, is it Regensburg in English?
I don't think you can change it into English just because it's just a name, right? So it's Regensburg, Regensburg. It would be like raining castle.
So if you're in a raining castle, I can recommend going there. You're one of the very few people in Austria who actually make a living off Jiu-Jitsu. So Jiu-Jitsu is not, it's growing, but it's not
super small.
It's still small in Europe and in Austria. How did that decision come about, and was it a hard decision? Like, did you think a lot? Okay, do I commit to Jiu-Jitsu and put like studying second or third place? How did that?
Yeah. So when I finished school, and after my first time in California, I moved to another city to study, and in this city, or in my city, it was already super small. Like, we were the only club who did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but in the next city it was even smaller. There was a club, I met some of them to train a little bit, but at that time I started to just study, more or less. So from Monday to Wednesday I would only study as much as possible, and Thursday to Saturday I came back to Klagenfurt and to the Flowing Arts Academy, and I taught and I trained as much as possible. And then at some point, a good friend and a student, Emmanuel, he's one of my brown belts now, he always came to us. And so he would come and say, hey, we need a new trainer in the club where he's training at. And he asked Martin, and Martin had already had his whole life like in Klagenfurt, like his wife, a house, the Flowing Arts Academy. But they offered me then the chance to teach, and I was like, okay, I study, and I can study in Vienna too, because it's a good city, and I can study the exactly same thing, so why not? It was a perfect opportunity for me. And so it was a little bit hard, because I thought, okay, if I stay in the city, I would probably I would study faster, so I would finish faster, and then eventually make a living from what I studied and train Jiu-Jitsu beside. But I realized I really want to do that, because for me it doesn't matter. If I finish studying now or later, if I can live from Jiu-Jitsu, it would matter for me. So that made the decision at the end easier. So I moved to Vienna, and I started to take this job, and I never regret it.
How does it feel at the beginning, because you're taking over the new gym, and it's at the beginning it's not so many people, it's mostly beginners. How's that feeling at the beginning? Was it hard sometimes at the beginning?
To be honest, it was even hard. It was the hard part was getting around in Vienna. I had literally no idea. Like, big city is scary. Now, I feel like when I went there the first times, everyone was sitting separate. So I came in there, and there were 2 people sitting on the one edge, 2 people there, and they wouldn't talk to each other. So it was a little bit weird. I wasn't even sure if they would kind of accept me or what they think. So I kind of just showed up and tried to do my best. It was not only white belts, so there were a couple blue belts too. But I don't know, it started to grow on me, and I feel like on the people too, because I brought all the ideas we had in from like how we build up our academy in Klagenfurt, and I think that over the time, like it took me probably 1 year, but then it started to work. Like everything turns out to be a group, you know what I'm saying? Like all the members, they went more into each other, they opened up more, and so in the beginning, for sure, it was scary. Like you're in a new city, you don't know anyone, you start a new job where you take over students from someone who left. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I think after 2 weeks or something, it started to feel natural already.
Yeah, I actually remember the first training session with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the first month, because it was the first time I did a curriculum, so the first month we did collar and sleeve.
Yeah.
And at that time I felt collar and sleeve is a really annoying technique.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you got me from the second month one.
I see. Well, why did you hate it? You don't enjoy it?
I wasn't used because before we did like, okay, today we do armbar and then we do like armbar for 50 minutes. But with the curriculum it was, okay, we do one technique for 1 month. So I wasn't used to the repetitions. And
you're doing one theme for 1 month?
Yeah, I wasn't used to it.
Yeah, so that's actually, I thought about that before. I read some other curriculums I got from Renato and from other people. And before I came to Vienna, before I started the job, I wrote down my own curriculum, which I thought is, which I believe in. And it's what you said. I pick 1 month, like a theme for 1 month. Not one technique, but one theme. And I try to make them have as many repetitions as possible before I go to the next topic. So I still do it. I switch it between gi and no-gi, but basically I felt the students improve way more when they can focus on something and see all aspects before you continue to something else. Because I have been to some other places where they would teach you from Monday to Wednesday 3 techniques, and then from Thursday to Saturday different 3 techniques, next week the same, and all the time different techniques. I felt like for sure you will see everything faster, so like the whole thing, but you're not be able to execute anything because you're lacking repetitions. And so I decided to do it like this way.
So when we are at coaching now, for you, what is a good coach?
A good coach? That's a good question. I think a good coach is... I wouldn't say that there are actually really good and bad coaches. I just think as a coach, you have to have multiple skills. You have to be an actor. Okay, because every time you step on the mat, it doesn't matter what you did at home or how you feel. You should not bring that to the class, you know what I'm saying? So you have to be an actor, you have to be an entertainer for the students, because you come there, they're paying you to have a good time, to learn Jujitsu and everything. So you have to really be able to... For sure, it's nothing that's complete out of your life. But every time you step on the mat and you are the coach, you have to you have to turn on the switch, okay? Because now I'm there for the students. I'm not there for me, okay? So I feel like I'm more focused on my students and to make them improve, to provide them a good training. And I think the better I can be an entertainer and an actor, the better I can perform the techniques, the better I find the words to correctly bring on point what I want to say in every technique, the better they can absorb it. And I think the rest is actually up to the students, because I can only be, as a coach, I can only be a guide a little bit, like show them in the direction, lead them a little bit, like lead by example. But at the end, I think it's up to the students.
So what is a good student?
What is a good student? So I think that question is hard to answer, because every student has different goals, like different mindset, and I think that's the difference between. I think you could say who's a good student for improving in Jiu-Jitsu and who's a good student for, I don't know, maybe having fun, or who's a bad student for improving in Jiu-Jitsu, let's say it like this. And the way I see it, I think it really depends on the mindset and on the environment. So if I have a good group, I have a supporting group, people who are nice to each other and help everyone will have a good time. Doesn't matter if you want to be a champion or if you just want to do it for fun. Maybe you have a family and everything, and you don't have so much time because you work a lot, and you just come here to relax, to have your 1.5 hours to where you can completely relax. So I think the environment builds up the students, but a good student for improving, for example, would be a student who has the mindset of, so like there are two different things. You either be not good. I think there's no bad student, okay, but you're either not good, like the mindset is you're not good, or you're not good yet. And I think you have this you're not good yet mindset. You know what I'm saying? Like, to accept that, like, Jiu-Jitsu is very frustrating. You did it too. So in the beginning, it's super frustrating. Especially all the better guys, they will tap you, they will make you have a hard time. So sometimes it can be super frustrating. And then I think it depends. Either way, either the students are having this mindset of, okay, I'm not good, but I'm not good yet, so I'm gonna improve, I'm gonna absorb, I'm gonna see, okay, what are my mistakes? And then there are people who just don't care. And if they don't care, I think it's okay too. I wouldn't consider them as bad, like bad students, but their mindset for making progress, I think, is holding them eventually back. But everyone has different goals, right? So I think that's fine, actually.
Yeah. What I did in the beginning when I just started Jiu-Jitsu, because in the first few months you just get smashed, I found myself like my own success. Like if I didn't escape from a submission, like that was my success, you know, because it takes some time until you can submit someone in Jiu-Jitsu or win or get some points. That was like, okay, I escaped 2 times today the submission. Then that was like my success story.
To be honest, that's actually one of the points how the way I built my curriculum. So I thought usually you heard that too. That's the how do I say, like you would people would tell that how do you train beginners? You start close guard, yeah, right? You start in close guard because there they can feel comfortable. The guy on bottom tries like you show them some submissions, maybe a sweep, how to pass the guard because it's a safe environment. For me, it was different because I thought, okay, how do you start Jiu-Jitsu? Like in a tournament situation, you start standing, you clap your hands, and then you start. And you have the options of throwing someone, you can make a takedown, or you can pull guard. So you're basically 3 options. So my goal was to start with something that people can always start with. Does it make sense? So let's say you fight someone who's much better than you. And in this class, I show you an armbar from close guard. Or you already learned for a couple months close guard techniques. And now you start sparring, but standing, for example. Like, because you prepare for a tournament. And you realize that the guy takes you down. And then you feel like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I tried to get my guard back, but the guy's already in side control and he's tapping you. So you restart again in a situation you never really trained before. So my goal is to start standing. First, showing them an easy way to pull guard, like collar and sleeve. I feel that's a very nice control, especially for the beginning. And then in the next month, or eventually including in this month, I already start to show them a takedown from the same grips. So every time you fight someone better, and you know after clapping the hands what you're going to do. So for sure, eventually they are better. So they bring you down, they go to side control, they tap you. But then you restart in a position where you already know something. And I feel like that's important because it's like playing any music instrument or something else, or like drawing, you know what I'm saying? In order to draw a very nice straight line, you gotta practice. You practice that all the time. You don't start with a nice picture, and you don't start with a complete music, a part of music. You bring out your piano and you try to remember everything, you play through, and if you get stuck, you restart. So you get so much confidence in the beginning, then it's easier to build up the rest. Does it make sense? Instead of just playing it, oh, you failed, keep playing, you know what I'm saying? That's my idea.
That's funny. I trained 4 years under you,
Yeah.
of maybe 5, and I didn't recognize that yet.
What do you mean?
But you start your curriculum this way.
Oh,
I didn't recognize.
You didn't recognize?
No. One thing you're doing a lot is drilling. So you drilled a lot yourself, and now you're posting videos on Instagram from your drills. You think about writing a book. How do you approach drilling, and how would you say someone should like approach the drilling? How should he schedule it?
Okay, so the drilling was always a big part of me. I think it became such a big part because me and Martin never had black belts that would be there every day, or doesn't need to be black belts, but very good people, good training partners, you know what I'm saying? I think beside drilling, it's very good to have strong training partners who always bring you to your limit, to show you where you need to improve, you know what I'm saying? And since we only had each other, and everyone out there who ever had a training partner or a brother or something who trained with every day, you get stuck in the same positions always. And you know, the first one who gets tired dies, and like every time you try something new, he knows already what he's going to do and he will smash you. So it's hard to try something new, right? So since we only had our students, and I never had really someone who's pushing me to my limits, I used drilling to compensate. So I drilled a lot, I drilled hard, I tried to really push myself in the drilling like I would do when I spar someone very good. And I think this strong focus and mindset is what made me then feel the improvements. That was also the difference when I told you between purple belt and brown belt. When I went to California, I changed my drilling routine a little bit. I tried to do more and more and more, and I felt it paid off when I came back. I felt so much better than when I was a purple belt. Now I felt like, okay, I can keep up, you know what I'm saying? I would not say that I was like super good brown belt, but at least I was able to like keep up, and that was already for me the sign, okay, I'm doing something right, because I never had those very good training partners, but I could execute my moves. And I think that's because of the drilling. So the way I do it now is I drill Monday to Friday for 1 hour, around 1 hour every day. I usually do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a different schedule than Tuesday and Thursday. And you mentioned it already, I'm writing a book about drilling. And there I already have my concept displayed, like I differentiate between explosiveness drills, speed drills, flow drills, and how to combine them so you kind of can have a good drilling session. And the importance of having a good drilling partner, because I think that's very important. If you don't have a good partner that's always there, that has the same mindset, it can be super hard. Because it started like a very good friend and student, one of my brown belts too, Vincent. It took me, I think, 1 year to bring him to make him a good drilling partner. Just because he had to learn the reactions I want from him, he had to learn all my ideas. But as soon as he got it, he was the best drilling partner I ever had. So I felt like if I train with him, I always can push myself to the limit, and it's always super fun. And so my different ideas, I will cover them in my book. And I post lots of drills on Instagram, because nowadays I'm not just know what I want to drill. Sometimes I spar and I just enjoy the sparring, and then I find like, what did I just do? It was a nice sweep or a nice submission, or how did I get there? And then I try to recognize. And then, so I don't forget, I add that to my drilling routine. And so that's when I first started filming the Instagram videos, because it was more for me than for other people, just to remember what I did. And then I displayed it, and then I thought, okay, people are interested in what I do. So I kind of shared more and more, and I still do that. I really enjoy that, actually.
And how do you, so you drill, and how do you implement it in your sparring? And how do you spar with people who are way below your level?
Okay, so the way I implement it is there is something between drilling and sparring. Because for sure, why do we drill? We want to be good in sparring or competition. We want to use our techniques. And I cannot just drill the move, like let's say on a partner who's just passive or something. You also have to increase the drills, like more resistance. And there are two things that I use specifically to bring all the drilling techniques to sparring, and that's this. The first thing is resistance. So that means I'm just starting in one position and you have one goal. So like you start in half guard and you have that your goal is to pass the guard. You know what I'm saying? If you pass the guard, or maybe you tap your partner, you win on top. If the guy on bottom is able to take the back, like to score any points, you win. The good thing about this is after you win, you restart in the same position. So you get lots of repetitions in the same position, but it's not the same as drilling. It's actually more intense, because the guy is reacting 100%. He wants to win too. And the next step is specific. So specific training is almost the same as resistance, but with a different goal. So let's say I start in half guard again, and in specific, my goal is to tap my partner. So even though, let's say, he tries to sweep me and now we're both standing, we wouldn't restart. We keep going until the submission. So eventually he sweeps me, I end up bottom side control, I still have to finish within a time limit. So let's say, I don't know, it can vary between 1 minute or 3 minutes. Okay. And if you put your drilling positions into a resistance and a specific, it's way, way easier and stronger to implement than in sparring, because it feels more natural. You already have done it with a lot of resistance, and then you will realize some people, especially the people who are not your training partners, because they know exactly what you're going to do, you feel, wait, there's like this move and you just did it, you know what I'm saying? It was not, you don't even need to think about it much, you just see the opportunity and your body reacts. And that's the goal, I think, for the whole thing. And what was the second question?
How do you spar with people who are way below your level?
Yeah, so I think there was this one video which I really can recommend to anyone. It was a video from Marcelo Garcia, where he explained the way he can fight with any level. And I really feel like I use the same approach. So it doesn't matter what level my opponent is, I always try to move as much as possible, giving correct reactions and actions, and not just doing nothing, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to just go there and just pass and beat the guy or girl up, you know what I'm saying? So that's not my idea, because I feel like in every sparring, if it's not specifically for a competition, like preparation for a competition or in a competition, I think both have to improve from the sparring, like have to take something out of it. So what I basically do is I give them always a little of space, and either they take it or no, you know what I'm saying? So if they take it, we can have a very good sparring. I can move so much that I feel I get tired too from doing that. And I really force myself to be creative and try new things. And that's the cool thing. I think that's another step after specific for everyone out there who wants to improve their drilling, is sparring with people who are below your level, because it's easier for you to execute your drills, but in a scenario out of context, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just a sparring situation, something, and then you realize, okay, I have a goal, I have a focus, I try to do this one thing. And I think if you have this approach, on the one hand, you give your opponent the chance to do something, and at the same time, you have a goal too, so both can improve from that. I think that's way better than just smashing or just letting them do. Okay, because I don't think they can improve much if I let them tap me without any effort. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not the real situation. That's not what they are facing in a tournament or when they go to another club for an open mat or spar with other people. You know what I'm saying?
If I spar with you, I don't feel the space.
You don't feel the space? Oh. I was just lying.
To sum it up, where can people find you on the internet? Where can they find you if they want to train with you in person?
Okay, so it's very simple. My Instagram is Mario Drills, just Mario Drills. My Instagram, my Facebook page, the same. If you ever want to visit, I train at the Citythong, in Vienna. It's in the 5th district. The owner is a super nice guy, Markus Bauer. He does very cool Thai boxing techniques. So if you enjoy Thai boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, make sure to come by. And that's about it.
That's about it. I'm there sometimes too. Thank you very much for the podcast, Mario. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It was very nice.
Thank you for listening and goodbye.
See you.